To reach the truth, to deeply understand life must one experience solitude. Nietzsche, Schopenhauer, Descartes, all of them went through periods of isolation. Nietzsche wandered alone in the Swiss mountains, and it was from this solitude that Thus Spoke Zarathustra was born. He believed that to achieve intellectual superiority, one must separate from the herd. Schopenhauer lived in isolation, keeping his distance from people, and wrote a philosophy filled with pessimism. He argued that life is endless suffering and that others merely serve as distractions from this reality. But did this solitude bring him peace? Descartes locked himself away to rethink everything he believed, and from this solitude, modern philosophy emerged. Pascal, who admired Descartes, followed a similar path, reflecting in silence on the nature of human existence. Heidegger, who saw solitude as a way to achieve authentic being, withdrew from society to refine his ideas. Kierkegaard, the father of existentialism, concluded in his isolation that faith is an individual experience, one that gets lost in the noise of society. But did all great thinkers find their path in solitude? Some of the most profound ideas in history were born among people. Socrates lived among crowds, engaging in dialogue, sitting in the city square, and asking deep questions to anyone he met. His philosophy was not silent but alive in conversation. Aristotle, unlike his teacher Plato, who leaned toward abstract ideas, built a school where he developed his thoughts alongside his students. Karl Marx shaped world-changing ideas in the bustling streets of London, in cafes and libraries. Dostoevsky, the great novelist, found meaning in suffering and hope not in isolation, but in prison, surrounded by criminals and the poor. So perhaps the truth is this: solitude is neither good nor bad, it is merely a tool. Nietzsche, when he distanced himself from others, created revolutionary philosophy, but in the end, this same solitude led him to madness. Schopenhauer crafted a dark and pessimistic worldview in his isolation, but did this solitude push his perspective too far into darkness? On the other hand, Socrates, immersed in society, found wisdom in daily conversations, wisdom that still lives on thousands of years later. But here's the interesting part: even Schopenhauer, who spent his life alone, admitted something different at the end. A woman who was painting his portrait would sit with him, have tea, and talk for a while. On the last day, as she left, Schopenhauer turned to his friend and said, "In the end, what does an old man really want from life? Just a bit of conversation, a little companionship, and a warm cup of tea." Perhaps that is the real truth. Sometimes, we need solitude to think. But sometimes, we need to return to people to see if our thoughts mean anything in the real world. What do you think? Is solitude necessary for deeper understanding? Or is it just an illusion that separates us from others?